go. I stood in the corner of the Windsor Grand Ballroom, holding a champagne flute I hadn't touched, watching my sister Rachel work the room like the professional she was. Her engagement party was flawless. 300 guests, ice sculptures, a live jazz quartet, and enough flowers to stock a florist for a month. Sarah. My mother appeared at my elbow, her third glass of champagne making her louder than usual. Stop hiding in the corner. Come meet Rachel's future mother-in-law. She's asking about you. The tone said it all. Please don't embarrass us. I followed Mom through the crowd, past clusters of Rachel's colleagues from Hamilton Consulting, past her fiancé Marcus's family, past cousins I barely recognized. We stopped at a group near the dessert table. This is my other daughter, Sarah, Mom said. Not my eldest daughter. Not even my name first. Just my other daughter. Oh, the one who works with computers? Marcus's mother asked politely. Software engineering, I corrected quietly. How nice. Rachel tells us you work from home mostly. That must be so convenient for you. Convenient. Code for unsuccessful enough to not need a real office. Rachel materialized beside us, radiant in her custom engagement gown, her hand extended to show off the 3-carat diamond Marcus had proposed with. Sarah's very independent. She prefers working alone. Some people just aren't built for corporate environments, Marcus's aunt added sympathetically. Nothing wrong with that. I'd heard variations of this conversation my entire adult life. I smiled politely and said nothing. How long have you been single now, dear? Another aunt asked. 5 years. 6. Sarah's very focused on her career. Mom interjected, which was her way of saying I'd failed at having a personal life. Rachel squeezed my shoulder in what looked affectionate but felt patronizing. My sister has very high standards. Sometimes too high, right, Sarah? Everyone chuckled sympathetically. Poor Sarah, so picky she'd priced herself out of the market. My phone buzzed. A text from Alex. How's the party? Need a rescue? I smiled and typed back. Almost done. Who's that? Rachel asked, her eternal nosiness flaring. Finally seeing someone? Just a friend. Sarah. Rachel's voice dropped into that sister-to-sister tone she used when others were listening. You're 35. You can't keep saying just a friend forever. Rachel and I had been divided into our roles early. She was the people person, charismatic, ambitious, always knowing exactly what to say. I was the technical one. Quiet, analytical, more comfortable with code than cocktail conversation. Why can't you be more like your sister? Became Mom's favorite refrain throughout high school. Rachel made homecoming court. I made the robotics team nationals. Rachel dated the quarterback. I dated my Java textbook. We both ended up in business, oddly enough. Rachel got her MBA from Wharton and went into management consulting. I got my master's in computer science and went into software architecture. By our parents' standards, Rachel was thriving. I was just existing. The real divide started 6 years ago. I'd been seeing someone, Alex Chin, a venture capitalist I'd met at TechCrunch Disrupt. We'd been dating for 4 months, keeping it quiet while we figured out if it was serious. Rachel had been between relationships and spiraling. Who keeps texting you? She'd asked at a family dinner, noticing my smile. Someone I met at a conference. She'd grabbed my phone before I could stop her. Her face had gone pale. Alex Chin? From Vertex Capital. I taken my phone back. How do you know him? Sarah, he's on the Forbes billionaire list. Under 40. His firm manages over $10 billion. Her eyes had narrowed. How do you know him? We met at a conference. Started talking. You're dating him? The disbelief was sharp enough to cut. We're seeing each other. Rachel had pulled me aside away from the family. Sarah, listen to me. Men like Alex Chin don't date women like you long term. He's probably just, I don't know, slumming it? Be nice. But it won't last. That's a horrible thing to say. I'm being realistic. You wear the same 5 outfits on rotation. You think small talk is torture. You've literally told me parties make you want to die. Guys like that need someone who can handle their world. Galas, fundraisers, board dinners. You'd hate every second of it. Maybe he likes me as I am. Or maybe you're going to get your heart broken and embarrass the family when it implodes publicly. Just manage your expectations, okay? I'd walked away from that conversation and made a decision. I wouldn't tell them anything else. I'd let them think whatever they wanted while I lived my actual life. Alex proposed 18 months later. Simple proposal, my apartment, a Tuesday night, no grand gestures. Just him saying he couldn't imagine his life without me and pulling out a platinum ring with a single perfect diamond. I said yes immediately. We should probably keep it quiet for a bit, Alex had suggested. I'm in the middle of a major acquisition. Media attention could complicate things. I'd agreed, but there was another reason I didn't mind the secrecy. I wanted to see how long my family would keep underestimating me. Call it petty. Call it self-preservation. I called it an experiment in human nature. We got married 4 months later. Private ceremony at San Francisco City Hall, followed by dinner with Alex's business partners and my actual friends. The people who'd never made me feel like I needed to be someone else. My family didn't know. They thought I was at a work conference in Seattle. Our wedding was perfect. Small, intimate, exactly what we both wanted. What I told my family when Mom eventually asked about Alex. It didn't work out. Long distance was too complicated. She'd looked relieved. Probably for the best, honey. Those technology people work such crazy hours. Rachel had actually hugged me. I know it hurts now, but you dodged a bullet. You would have been miserable in that world. I'd nodded and let them believe it. Meanwhile, my actual life. Alex's firm grew to $14 billion under management. He joined the boards of 7 major companies. We bought a house in Pacific Heights. A $4 million Victorian I'd renovated myself, choosing every detail. I'd been promoted to Chief Technology Officer at Axiom Systems, managing 83 engineers and a $53 million annual technology budget. We traveled constantly. Singapore, London, Tokyo. Mixing Alex's business with the life my family would never believe I was capable of living. But I kept showing up to family events in my same 5 outfits, driving my modest Honda, letting them think I was still living in my little studio apartment. Actually, our pied-a-terre downtown for late work nights. I watched Rachel's career carefully. 3 years ago, she joined Hamilton Consulting as a senior partner. Her specialty was landing big technology clients. Just closed another 8-figure deal, she'd announced last Thanksgiving. Tech companies are desperate for good consulting right now. My pipeline is insane. I'd asked interested questions, cataloging information. 2 months ago, Rachel had mentioned her career-defining client, a venture capital firm that could mean a multi-million-dollar contract. If I land this, I'll make managing partner before 40, she'd said at brunch. This firm is legendary, notoriously selective. But I've got an inside track through Marcus's corporate law connections. I'd sipped my coffee, already knowing which firm she meant. Alex had mentioned Hamilton Consulting's aggressive pitch. They've reached out 9 times in 6 weeks, he told me over dinner. The partner keeps name-dropping connections. Claims she can transform our portfolio strategy. What do you think? I'd asked. Overpriced. Underwhelming methodology. We're not interested. Rachel didn't know that. She thought she was weeks away from closing the biggest deal of her career. Which brought me to tonight, watching Rachel command her engagement party while she casually demolished me to anyone who'd listen. The Vertex Capital deal closes next month, Rachel was telling a group of her Hamilton colleagues. 9 months of cultivation, but I finally have a meeting with their CEO. Once I present our proposal, it's essentially done. The relationship is there. I felt my phone buzz. Alex, how much longer? I miss you. Me 1 more hour. Then I'm all yours. Who are you texting? Rachel appeared at my shoulder. You're smiling. That's new. Just a friend. Sarah, you're 35 years old. When are you going to stop with the just a friend excuse and actually try to meet someone? I'm fine, Rachel. You're not fine. You're alone. She lowered her voice to what she probably thought was sisterly concern. I worry about you. You work constantly. You never go out. You don't even try. Maybe I'm happy as I am. No one's happy alone, Sarah. Look around. She gestured at the ballroom full of couples, families, connection. This is what life is supposed to look like. Partnership. Celebration. Love. I have a life. You have a job. That's different. She squeezed my arm. I don't say this to be mean. I say it because I care. But you're too particular. Too closed off. Difficult. And it's costing you everything. The word landed like it always did. Difficult. The label I'd carried my entire life. You might be right, I said quietly. Rachel's face softened into pity. I know I am. And Sarah, I've accepted it. You're probably going to be single forever, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant for partnership. Some people are just... Rachel. Speech time. Marcus called from the center of the room. Rachel squeezed my arm once more. We'll talk later. I want to help you accept this. She swept away to join Marcus at the microphone. Someone handed them champagne glasses. The room quieted. Thank you all for being here, Marcus began, launching into a speech about finding his soulmate, about knowing when you'd met your perfect match, about the joy of building a life with someone who completes you. Rachel beamed beside him. When it was her turn, she pulled me up front. I want to thank my family, Rachel said, her arm around my shoulders. Especially my sister Sarah, who's been there for me my whole life, even though we're so different. Different. Code for, I'm successful, she's not. Sarah and I have such different paths, Rachel continued. She's brilliant with technology, really, truly brilliant. Lives her quiet life, perfectly content being independent. And I've learned to accept that not everyone wants what I have. The room made sympathetic noises. For years I kept trying to set Sarah up, introduce her to people, help her find someone. But I've realized, Rachel's voice took on that confiding tone that carried perfectly across the silent room. My sister might just be one of those people who's meant to be alone. She's too particular. Too set in her ways. Too difficult for most people to handle. Polite, pitying applause. And honestly, Rachel looked directly at me. I think you'll never find anyone, Sarah. Not because you're not wonderful, you are. But because you won't compromise. You won't try. And I've made peace with that. I hope you can too. He hugged me. The room applauded. Everyone was looking at me with sympathy and pity, and that particular kind of satisfaction people get when they see someone else's failure and feel better about their own lives. I pulled back and said clearly, "You're absolutely right, Rachel. I'll never find anyone." She looked relieved, like I'd finally accepted reality. I stepped away from the microphone, pulled out my phone, and texted Alex. Reject Hamilton Consulting's $4.2 million proposal. Permanently. Notification Monday. His response came in 5 seconds. Done. Email drafted. Want me to send it now or wait? Me. Wait until Monday morning. 9 a.m. sharp. Alex. Consider it done. Love you. Get out of there. I looked up. Rachel's phone was ringing. She frowned at the screen. Her managing partner, calling on a Saturday night during her engagement party. She stepped away to answer, and I watched her face change. Confusion. Then barely concealed panic. She was on the call for 12 minutes. When she came back, her smile was forced, her eyes worried. But she didn't look at me. She didn't know yet. The party continued for 3 more hours. I made small talk. Congratulated Marcus's parents. Ate a slice of the 7-tier cake that probably cost more than my first car. At midnight I slipped out. Alex was waiting in the parking garage. Not his usual Tesla, but the Mercedes G-Wagon we used when we wanted to avoid attention. How bad? He asked as I climbed in. Rachel announced to 300 people that I'm too difficult to ever find love. That she's made peace with me dying alone. That I'll never find anyone because I won't compromise or try. Jesus. In front of everyone. Her colleagues, my family, random guest. Made it part of her engagement celebration. Alex was quiet for a moment. The Hamilton proposal rejection, you're sure? I'm sure. She banked her entire managing partner promotion on landing your firm. She's been telling everyone for months that it's essentially done. It was never going to happen. The proposal was mediocre at best. Overpriced, underwhelming methodology, relying entirely on name-dropping connections instead of actual value. She doesn't know that. She thinks family connections will close the deal. They won't. I reviewed the proposal before I knew she was your sister. It wasn't good enough. We drove home to Pacific Heights, to the house they didn't know I owned, to the life they couldn't imagine I'd built. You could still tell them, Alex said as we pulled into our garage. And this whole thing. Where's the educational value in that? He laughed. You're really going to let them figure it out on their own? Rachel just told 300 people I'm too difficult for anyone to love. That I'll die alone. That she's accepted my permanent loneliness as fact. Yeah, I'm going to let them figure it out on their own. We went inside. I changed out of my engagement party clothes and into pajamas, poured a glass of wine, sat on our terrace overlooking the city. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. That call was weird. Senior partner asking if I'm sure the Vertex deal is closing. Almost like they're worried. Did I oversell it? I'm probably overthinking. I didn't respond. Another text 20 minutes later. You left early. Everything okay? Me just tired. Congratulations again on the engagement. Rachel, thanks. Sorry if the speech was too much. I just want you to be realistic about your life, you know? Stop waiting for some fantasy and accept what's actually possible for you. I stared at that message for a long time. I appreciate your concern. It was the most diplomatic thing I could manage. Sunday brunch at my parents' house. Our monthly family obligation that I'd been attending faithfully for 6 years, playing the role they expected. I arrived exactly on time, carrying the fruit salad I always brought, wearing one of my same 5 outfits, dark jeans and a simple sweater. Rachel was already there looking exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes. Her usual confidence replaced by something twitchy and worried. Sarah. Mom called out. Come in. Rachel was just telling us about some work stress. I set down the fruit salad and joined them in the dining room. Dad was reading the financial section. Mom was arranging pastries. Rachel was staring at her phone like it might bite her. Everything okay? I asked. No. Rachel looked up. Everything is not okay. I just got an email from Vertex Capital. Our proposal was rejected. Permanently. The CEO personally signed the rejection. Oh no, Mom said. I thought that was a sure thing. It was supposed to be. 9 months of relationship building. Inside connections. Everything was perfect. Rachel's hands were shaking. The rejection letter was brutal. Said they have no interest in Hamilton Consulting Services now or in the foreseeable future. That's not standard language. That's personal. Maybe the proposal just wasn't right for them, Dad suggested. No. I've been doing this for 12 years. I know when a deal is solid. This was solid. Rachel looked directly at me. Until someone sabotaged it. The accusation hung in the air. Why would anyone sabotage you? I asked calmly. I don't know, Sarah. You tell me. You work in tech. Do you know anyone at Vertex Capital? My phone buzzed. Alex. Board meeting done early. Home for lunch. Me at parents' house. Might be a while. Sarah, Rachel asked you a question, Mom prompted. Do I know anyone at Vertex Capital? I repeated. Why would that matter? Because this rejection was personal. The CEO doesn't typically get involved in declining consulting proposals. Someone influenced this decision. Rachel's voice was rising. And it happened exactly 24 hours after my engagement party. She stopped. After you what? I asked. Nothing. No, say it. After you announced to 300 people that I'm too difficult to love, that I'll never find anyone, that you've accepted, I'll die alone. Rachel's face flushed. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? I was trying to help you be realistic. By making my supposed failure the centerpiece of your engagement celebration? Girls, Mom interjected. This isn't about the party. It's exactly about the party, I said. Rachel, you asked if I know anyone at Vertex Capital. The answer is yes. I know the CEO quite well, actually. Rachel's eyes widened. You know Alex Chin? Very well. How? Could you introduce me? Sarah, if I could just get one meeting to explain. No. What do you mean no? This is my career. If you have any connection at all. I said no, Rachel. Why? Why are you being so difficult about this? This is typical. You keeping information to yourself, refusing to help family. I can't introduce you to my husband. The silence was absolute. Mom's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. Dad's newspaper rustled and went still. Rachel stared at me like I'd started speaking Mandarin. What did you say? Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. Alex Chin. He's my husband. We've been married for 4 years. That's not funny. I'm not joking. I pulled out my phone, opened my photos and slid it across the table. Our wedding photo. Me in a simple white dress, Alex in a dark suit, both of us smiling at City Hall. Mom picked up my phone with trembling hands. When was this? 4 years ago. June 22nd. You got married 4 years ago and never told us? Dad's voice was sharp. You were busy with Rachel's promotion party that weekend. We didn't want to overshadow it. Didn't want to, Mom sputtered. Your wedding. We wanted something small anyway. Just us and close friends. It was perfect. Rachel grabbed my phone, zooming in on the photo like she could find evidence it was fake. This is really Alex Chin? The venture capitalist? Yes. The one who just rejected my proposal? Yes. You. Rachel's face was cycling through emotions too fast to track. You told him to reject it. I suggested he give your proposal the consideration it deserved. Which was none, Rachel said bitterly. You told him to reject it permanently. No. I told him you were my sister and asked him to review your proposal fairly. He rejected it permanently because it wasn't good enough. That's a lie. My proposal was excellent. Your proposal was overpriced by 30%, relied on methodology that's been outdated for 3 years, and demonstrated no understanding of Vertex's actual investment strategy. Alex told me that before he knew you were my sister. Rachel stood up abruptly, her chair scraping back. You sabotaged me. I protected my husband from a mediocre pitch from someone who spent 6 years telling me I'm not good enough for anything. Mediocre? Rachel's voice cracked. You think my work is mediocre? I think you're competent at your job. I also think you've been coasting on charm and connections instead of developing actual expertise. And I think you assumed family relationship would override merit. It didn't. This is unbelievable. Rachel turned to our parents. Are you hearing this? She deliberately destroyed my career out of spite. I didn't destroy anything, I said calmly. I declined to help you leverage a relationship you didn't know existed. Those are very different things. You should have told him to accept the proposal, Mom said. That's what family does. Is it? Because family also doesn't announce to 300 people that their sister is too difficult to love. But Rachel managed that just fine. I was trying to help you accept reality, Rachel insisted. No, you were making my supposed loneliness part of your celebration. You pitted me publicly to make yourself feel superior. That's not true. Rachel, you told 300 people I'd never find anyone. You said I'm too difficult, too particular, too set in my ways. You told them you'd made peace with my permanent solitude. I looked at her steadily. The only problem is, while you were accepting my lonely future, I was already married to a man you've been desperately trying to impress for 9 months. How long have you known I was pitching to Vertex? Rachel asked slowly. Since you first mentioned it. 3 months ago. You knew. This entire time, you knew you were married to the CEO I was pursuing and you said nothing. Why would I? You'd already decided I was a failure. I was just letting you believe what you wanted to believe. Rachel was scrolling through her phone frantically. The house in Pacific Heights. The Victorian that was in Architectural Digest last year. That's yours. Mine and Alex's. The CTO position at Axiom Systems. $53 million technology budget. That's you. For 3 years. Jesus Christ. Rachel looked up, her expression a mixture of betrayal and disbelief. You've been lying to us for years. No, Rachel. I've been living my life quietly while you made assumptions. There's a difference. We thought you were struggling. Mom protested. We thought you needed support. You thought I was a failure, I corrected. You thought I was too difficult to find love, too unsuccessful to matter. The only difference between what you believed and reality is that you never asked. You just assumed the worst. Because you let us. Dad said. You showed up in old clothes, drove that beat-up Honda. That beat-up Honda is my commuter car. I also have a Range Rover. I just never saw a reason to prove anything to people who'd already decided I wasn't worth their respect. My phone buzzed. Alex, should I come get you? You've been there 2 hours. I texted back. Yes. Bring the Porsche. I stood up. I need to go. You can't just leave, Dad said. We need to discuss this. Discuss what? How you've treated me like an embarrassment for 6 years. How Rachel made my supposed loneliness into entertainment. I think we've covered that pretty thoroughly. Sarah, wait. Rachel stood too. The Vertex proposal. Can you get Alex to reconsider? I looked at my sister. This person who'd spent years making me feel small, who'd announced my eternal solitude to a ballroom full of people, who'd pitied me publicly while I was living a life she couldn't imagine. No. Please. If you just explain that I'm your sister. Alex knows you're my sister. That's precisely why he added, permanently, to the rejection. He doesn't do business with people who hurt me. I didn't hurt you. Rachel, you told 300 people I'd die alone. At your engagement party. You made my supposed failure part of your celebration. I was trying to help you accept. No. You were trying to prove you were better than me. And it worked until you discovered that the life you thought I was living was complete fiction. A car horn sounded outside. I walked to the window. Alex's Porsche Taycan, the one he drove to board meetings, the one that cost more than my parents' mortgage, was pulling into the driveway. That's him. Mom whispered. Alex stepped out, looking exactly like what he was. A billionaire in casual weekend clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. He walked to the door. I opened it before he could knock. Hi, sweetheart, he said, kissing me casually. Sorry I'm early. Missed you. He looked past me at my family, all frozen in various states of shock. You must be Sarah's family. I'm Alex. Nice to finally meet you all properly. He extended his hand to my father, who shook it automatically. You're really married to our daughter? Dad managed. 4 years this June. Best decision I ever made. Alex looked at me. Ready? We have the Hendersons' dinner at 6. The Hendersons? Rachel's voice was faint. Governor Henderson? His wife and Sarah were college roommates, Alex said easily. We have dinner monthly. Sarah, you should probably change. Maria mentioned it's formal tonight. I picked up my purse. I'll meet you in the car. 2 minutes. Alex nodded and headed outside. I turned back to my family. I need to go. We're expected at the governor's mansion. Sarah, wait. Rachel's voice stopped me. We need to talk about this. All of it. About what? About how you've spent years making me feel worthless. About how you announced my loneliness to 300 people. About how you banked your career on a connection you didn't know existed. About why you never told us. You want to know why I didn't tell you I married Alex? I looked at each of them. Because 6 years ago, when I first started dating him, Rachel told me men like him don't end up with women like me. She said I'd embarrass the family when it inevitably fell apart. She made it her mission to convince me I wasn't good enough. I was trying to protect you. No, Rachel. You were trying to prove you were superior. And instead of fighting you, I decided to let you believe whatever you wanted while I built the life I actually wanted. A life that, as it turns out, exceeds anything you've managed. That's cruel, Mom said. Is it? Was it cruel when Rachel announced I'd die alone? When she said I'm too difficult for anyone to love? When she made 300 people pity me? I headed for the door. I don't think I'm the cruel one here. I walked out, leaving them in stunned silence. The calls started within the hour. Rachel, Sarah, we need to talk. What you did to my career. Call me back. Mom, Sarah Elizabeth Peterson, or Chin, I suppose. This is not how family handles things. Call me immediately. Dad, your mother is very upset. We need to discuss this like adults. I listened to each voicemail while getting ready for the Hendersons' dinner. A formal black dress, diamond earrings Alex had given me for our anniversary, my wedding ring that I'd worn for 4 years but that my family had somehow never noticed. You going to call them back? Alex asked, adjusting his tie. Eventually. Not tonight. Rachel's going to lose that promotion. She was never getting our business. Her proposal was weak. The only reason she thought it was guaranteed was because she assumed connections would override competence. She's going to blame you forever. Probably. I looked at him. Do you think I should have told them earlier? I think you protected yourself from people who constantly underestimated you. There's nothing wrong with that. We went to the Hendersons, a casual gathering of 30 people including 2 senators, a federal judge, and 3 Fortune 500 CEOs. Maria Henderson had been my college roommate. She knew everything. They finally know? She asked when we had a moment alone. Found out today. How'd they take it? Rachel's convinced I sabotaged her career. Mom thinks I'm cruel. Dad's just confused. Good. Maybe they'll think twice before dismissing you next time. The next morning, I woke to 63 text messages. Cousins, OMB, you're married to Alex Chin? Aunts, why didn't you tell us? Uncle Mike, saw your house in that magazine. When can we visit? And one from Rachel. I need that introduction to Vertex. My job depends on it. Please. I called her. She answered immediately. Sarah, thank God. Look, I know I said things. You told 300 people I'd die alone. Silence. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. You've spent 6 years making me feel like a failure, Rachel. Every family gathering, every holiday, constant comments about my relationship status, my career, my life choices. You needed me to be the unsuccessful sister so you could be the star. That's not fair. Isn't it? You built your entire identity on being better than me. And you needed me to actually be worse to make that work. So this is revenge. Keeping me from Vertex. This is boundaries. I don't mix my personal life with business, especially not when the person asking has spent years treating me like I'm worthless. I'm your sister. And I'm yours. Did that stop you from publicly humiliating me at your engagement party? Long silence. The Vertex proposal, Rachel finally said. Is there any chance? No. Sarah, I'll lose my shot at managing partner. Then you shouldn't have banked everything on a deal you couldn't deliver. But I could have if you'd helped. No, Rachel. You couldn't have. Alex reviewed your proposal blind. He said it was overpriced and underwhelming. The only reason you thought it was done was because you were counting on connections you didn't actually have. I had connections through Marcus. And Alex doesn't care about connections. He cares about competence. Your proposal wasn't good enough. That's not my fault. I hung up. 6 weeks later, I met my parents for coffee. Neutral ground, a Starbucks between their house and my office. They looked older. Tired. We owe you an apology, Mom started. For what specifically? For assuming the worst. For not asking questions. For treating you like you were less than Rachel. I've always been less than Rachel. In your eyes. That's not true. Dad protested weakly. Dad, you literally introduced me as our other daughter at events. Not by name. Just the other one. He winced. We thought you were struggling, Mom said. You drove an old car. Wore simple clothes. Never talked about your life. Because every time I tried, you changed the subject to Rachel. After a while, I stopped trying. We're sorry, Dad said. Truly. We've been terrible parents to you. Yeah. You have been. Can we fix this? Mom asked. I looked at them. These people who'd made me feel invisible for years, who were only interested now that they'd discovered I was successful by their standards. I don't know. Can you actually treat me like you value me? Not just because I married someone successful, but because I'm your daughter. We want to try, Mom said. Then start by understanding why I kept this from you. I didn't hide my marriage out of spite. I hid it because you'd already decided I was a failure, and I didn't want your judgment contaminating the best thing in my life. We talked for 2 hours. They asked about Alex, about my work, about the house. Actually listened to my answers. Why didn't you tell us about the wedding? Dad asked. Because it was Rachel's promotion weekend. I didn't want to compete with that. So Alex and I just did our own thing. We would have come, Mom said. Would you? Or would you have spent the whole ceremony wondering why someone like Alex was marrying someone like me? She didn't answer. I need time, I told them. I need to see if you can treat me with respect, not just pity that I happened to marry well. That's fair, Dad said. We parted with careful hugs, the kind that acknowledged we were trying but weren't there yet. 3 months later, Alex and I hosted our first family dinner at the Pacific Heights house. My parents came. Rachel declined, citing work obligations. Mom cried walking through the house I'd designed. This is beautiful, Sarah. Really beautiful. Dad spent 20 minutes in my home office looking at my awards, my degrees, the framed Forbes article about emerging tech leaders. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. First time I could remember hearing those words. We had dinner on the terrace. Nothing fancy, just good food and conversation that felt, for the first time in years, genuine. It wasn't perfect. Years of dismissal don't evaporate in one dinner. But it was a start. 6 months after that, Rachel texted, "Can we talk?" Really talk. We met at the same Starbucks. She looked different, less certain, more humble. I'm not making managing partner this year, she said. The Vertex thing killed my momentum. I'm sorry. Are you though? Yes. I didn't want you to fail, Rachel. I just didn't want to be your stepping stone to success. She stirred her coffee. I've been in therapy, trying to figure out why I needed you to be unsuccessful so badly. And turns out I built my entire identity on being the successful sister. When you turned out to be more successful than me, in ways I didn't even know were possible, it broke something in how I see myself. So what now? Now I apologize. Really apologize. Not because you're married to someone successful, but because I spent years making you feel small so I could feel big. That was cruel, Sarah. I'm sorry. I looked at this person who'd hurt me repeatedly, who'd only apologized after facing consequences. But I also saw someone trying. We can rebuild, I said. But Rachel, if you ever make me feel like that again, if you ever use my life as your punchline, we're done. I understand. I mean it. I know. I won't waste this chance. We talked for hours. Really talked, maybe for the first time as adults. It wasn't perfect. Trust takes time.